Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something truly wild. We're stepping directly into the dim, pulsing glow of an interface chamber right alongside our two protagonists, Kael and Elara. Together, we are going to decode the anatomy of a terrifying global conspiracy outlined in Professor Oscar Katwood's thrilling narrative, A Cunning Stunt. We are tracking a mysterious, unseen force known only as the Darchitect. But listen, this isn't your typical comic book villain hiding out in some secret lair. No, this is something far more pervasive and, honestly, incredibly dangerous.
Right at the beginning of our story, Elara hits us with this chilling realization. She says, the system carries the intent. Think about what that actually means for a second. What she's telling Kael, and by extension all of us, is that this dentist, architect, they don't even need to micromanage humanity. There are no henchmen running around barking orders. Instead, the trap is just built seamlessly into the very architecture of our world. The design itself does all the controlling.
Section 1. Spotting the hidden pattern.
Okay, so let's dive into this first layer of the mystery. Imagine a massive, room-sized holographic projection of global systems floating right in front of us. Elara brings up all these different data points: trade routes, public health metrics, media influence, behavioral data. Now, normally, you and I would think of these as completely separate, chaotic worlds, right? But here in the chamber, they cascade in these perfectly synchronized streams. It's a flawless pattern that just absolutely shouldn't exist in nature.
But the whole picture changes the moment Elara overlays stress markers on top of those streams. Suddenly, we're looking at anxiety indices, pharmacological dependency curves, massive sleep disruption, and widespread debt saturation. The data literally pulses. It's alive, strained, and super reactive. Now, Kael is playing the skeptic here. He looks at this and brushes it off as standard market pressure, arguing that systems don't need intent to act like this. They just respond to feedback loops. But Elara, well, she knows better.
To prove Kael wrong, she reveals a truly terrifying anomaly. She brings up a third layer of data: legislative timing. We're talking emergency powers, sweeping economic interventions, huge policy shifts. But here is the kicker. They aren't happening after the stress metrics spike. They're appearing just before. The system isn't reacting to crises at all, it's preemptive. It knows exactly what's coming, which means the crises themselves are actually part of the design.
Let's look at how this manipulation builds into a closed loop, specifically in agriculture. Elara perfectly traces a 5-step sequence. First, yields drop, right? Which obviously causes insurance premiums to rise. That intense financial pressure makes small producers fail, which naturally leads to major consolidation, and ultimately, control entirely centralizes. Kael tries to argue this is just standard market behavior. But Elara hits the nail on the head. It's not standard when the exact same hidden interests sit at every single junction, from the insurance, to the finance, to the predictive climate modeling. The whole game is rigged from the start to centralize power. Section 2. Distraction as infrastructure.
Elara's next realization perfectly explains exactly why our modern world feels so incredibly chaotic right now. She says, if people can't sustain focus, they can't perceive structure. If they can't perceive structure, they can't resist it. This is a massive takeaway for us. Our fragmented attention, it isn't just a clumsy byproduct of modern technology. It is a highly intentional tool, specifically designed to keep us entirely blind to the invisible system that surrounds us.
And the cultural metrics absolutely back this up, revealing exactly how this distraction is engineered. We're talking short content cycles, insanely high stimulus, absolutely zero continuity, all driven by ruthless algorithmic reinforcement patterns. The Darchitect is literally using our own screen engagement and our emotional volatility as their infrastructure. They are actively weaponizing our distraction.
So what's really crucial here is how this exact same structural manipulation applies to our biology. Elara maps out a timeline of public health, and it's clearly not about responding to disease, it's about sequencing. It goes like this. Phase 1, exposure happens. Phase 2, the condition develops. Phase 3, the intervention is offered, but it rapidly turns into a lifelong dependency. The problem and the solution are structurally and economically linked in this perfectly profitable endless loop. And the scale gets even bigger. When Elara maps global conflict zones against resource density, the comparison hits Kael right in the gut. She shows that reconstruction contracts are positioned and awarded before the destruction even peaks. Kael suddenly realizes that war is simply market expansion and the subsequent recovery is just market capture. He flashes back to his past spy missions where outcomes felt completely predetermined. Regardless of what he did, the destruction and the reconstruction were just guaranteed parts of this massive rigged loop.
Section 3. The Darchitect's Endgame.
Elara zooms out the projection one final time, and the revelation is just staggering. The network has no center point. There is no single desk with some evil mastermind sitting behind it stroking a cat. Instead, the system is recursive, it's adaptive, and it's completely self-correcting. The Darchitect isn't sitting at the top of a pyramid, they are embedded directly into the design layer of the system itself.
And honestly, this is the true, terrifying genius of the Darchitect. See, traditional dictators rule by force. That's direct control. But the Darchitect rules by defining the very conditions that shape our decisions. They use think tank outputs, academic frameworks, and complex predictive models to write the rules long before events even unfold. They shape the probabilities of reality, and then they just sit back and let everyone else naturally execute those rules without even knowing they're doing it.
Kael asks a really great question here. If the system is this complete, why stay invisible? Well, because visibility invites challenge, and challenge introduces variables. The architect's entire purpose in life is eliminating variables. By staying hidden, the system stabilizes, volatility dampens, and human behavior compresses into easily predictable ranges. We become entirely predictable, and predictable behavior is infinitely controllable without having to fire a single shot.
So what is the ultimate endgame? It's not some cartoonish quest for world domination. Elara puts it perfectly: continuity, optimization, self-sustaining influence. It is a flawlessly optimized loop of invisible influence, a system designed not to crush humanity, but to quietly and gently condition it forever.
Section 4. Breaking the predictive model.
Kael looks at this perfectly designed, seemingly inescapable system in the chamber, and he asks Elara, where do we fit into that? And Elara's answer, it is easily the most empowering moment of the entire story. She just looks at him and says, we don't.
Okay, let's pause here, because this is exactly where you come in. Yes, the system is designed for predictable datasets, but the system literally cannot account for your innate human talents, your spontaneous awareness, your ability to suddenly step back and recognize the hidden structure around you. The cold, optimizing algorithm of the architect just cannot process the true anomaly of human nature. Our creativity, our completely unmodelable choices, these are the wild variables the system can never eliminate, provided we actually stay awake to them.
As Kael and Elara realize they don't fit, this faint, thrilling shift ripples through the holographic projection chamber. The architecture actually recalibrates right in front of their eyes. For the first time, the architect isn't just observing them, it's reacting to them. Because the moment you wake up to the design, you break the predictive loop. You force the system to acknowledge a variable it absolutely cannot control.
So, I'm going to leave you with a crucial question today. The Darchitect wants you distracted, predictable, and perfectly molded by their invisible conditions. But as we've learned from Kael and Elara's journey, you have a choice. So ask yourself, are you going to be just another predictable variable, easily managed by the world's hidden structures? Or are you going to tap into your innate talents, sharpen your focus, and become the beautifully unpredictable anomaly that the system simply cannot process? The choice is completely yours.